Annyeonghaseyo, Hanyahamida. This means welcome. So, you're welcome to Netcode-Hub channel. In this video, we are going to talk about how to perform a CRUD operation using an SQLite. And that is an offline database. So with this, we have to install some packages for this project. Now, remember that when I'm done with this project, I'm going to put it at GitHub so you can have access to it. Check the description and there's a link over there. You can just click on it and download the source code as well. Okay, so let's install these packages. I've done already, so I'm going to show you the packages that we need to install for this work or this lesson. So I go to my project settings and I have about 7 or 8 packages that I need to install. Community2kit.Maui. We have Microsoft, but this is the default one. We have community2kit.MVVM, and we have refactor.MVVM helpers, SQLite PCL, and also the PCL raw.core, and the PCL raw, the provider, the dynamic CDCL, and provider ESQL3, and we have the Syncfusion Maui core. So these are the packages that I need to install. So pause the video and I'll try to install these packages and I will move on. Alright, so let's assume you are done installing. So I'm going to save this and I'm going to close that. Now you can see when you install this Syncfusion, the community2kit.Maui, it tells you to add this to the Maui Program.cs. So we're going to add that to Maui Program.cs file. And that is it. So let's add that here. Okay, so aside from adding this, we have to also go in there and create folders for this project. So control period. Let's use this tool. Now let's right click on this. Let's create our folders here. And we need to create our views. We need to create our view models. So let's create our view models. So that is view models. So view models. And now the next one that we need to create is, let's create our service. So services. And now the last one that we need to create is models. So let's add new folder as models. Okay, so now we have this. Let's go in there and create the first model for this project. Now let's right click on the models and add new class, and here we're going to use user. So, and here let's pass in user. So user are going to possess a lot of properties here. We make this as public. And now in here, we're going to have an ID. So there's an ID, that's a user ID. Now aside from this, we're going to have string, and that's going to be name. So name. And aside from this, we're going to have maybe location. So that's going to be string. And that is location. Okay, now let's add one more. We have email, and that will be all. So let's maintain this 5 over here. We have ID, name, location, and email address. Now when we go to, we have this model over here. Now since you're going to create this as a table in a database, let's specify which you're supposed to use as a primary key. And in case you want to set up the table name too, you can do that. But here we're going to say use this as a primary key. And now also what we're going to do here is auto increment. So let's auto increment it one by one. As soon as, so the seed value here is 1. It's starting from 1. It increases by 1 anytime a data is added. Okay, so once you are done, the next thing that we have to do here is we have to add our view, and that's going to be user list view. So let's go to our views, right click on it, and now let's add a new item, and this is going to be .NET Maui content page. and the name of this is going to be user list. So it could be customer list, it could be user list page. So user list, or you can say users list page. Now with this, as soon as you are done creating this page, we have to also create a view model. So we can just copy this, right click on view models, and now add new class. And now here going to be users list page, we add view model. So with this, with this view model that we have, this is what we can do. So let's set this as public, partial, and it is a class, and this is going to inherit from observable objects. So that is this. Now the next thing that we can do after doing here is, let's register these two in a program, the Maui Program.cs. So we say builder.services.add, so .add transient, so .add transient, and now here we are going to use the user list view model. So let me paste this here, user list. Then the next one we're going to add as view model. So add transient, and now user list view model. Control period. Let's use the model. So we have these two registered. Now the next thing that we can do here is we have to bind this view model to its content. So this is the view model. We have to bind it to this context. So we go to this. So let's see. Now when you go to views, user list page.xml.cs, let's include this here. So view model, then you can create an object out of this. So this control period, let's include this namespace, and here let's bind. So binding context is equal to this user list view model. So let's paste this here. We save that. Now let's set this user list view model or user list page as a default page. So you see, you have local namespace SQLite, that's our project name. So we can talk about views. Now .views, and we can now have access to user list page. So let's clear this. So this is our page that we want to navigate to, user list page. So let's grab this and now paste it here. So let's run this application and see. So we have to get a default list here, and that is when you go to this, you can talk about user list. So user list, and now you can just clear this. So let's run application and see what we have. So just select the emulator and now Android, and let's run this application. Alright, so you can see that from here we have our user list, and that is the current page or the home page now. Now let's go in there and now create our service and implement an interface and an implementation class as well. And that is what you're going to use to handle the database, or that's the SQLite operations. So go to Solution Explorer. Now right click on the project and add a new folder. So you can see we have to stop the debugging. So right click on this and now add a new folder as services. We have done that already. Alright, so it is here, so we can now delete this. And on this service, let's right click and add interface and implementation. So click on add new item, and now this is going to be interface. So with this interface, it's going to be user service. So let's copy this, and this is going to be user service. So, and now let's create an implementation class. So I'll click and I'll click on add new class, and I'll paste this user service. So this has to inherit from our user service. So control period, we can generate constructor for this. Now we have to make this as public, so we do that too. Now let's clear all this because you don't need any of this. Now let's also go to the iUser. You can also clear this, and now here you're going to be public as well. So aside from this, what are the methods that you're going to have in this method or in this interface? So first of all, let's have a task, and now this return an integer, and now it is add. So this add you're going to have in this user model, and you have a user model. So we have our user over here, and that is what we are going to use. So we use this user, control period, we inject this. So we're going to add. Also, let's copy this and now paste it. Let's see. So add. Now this is, let's add async, and this is going to be update async. Then we have delete async, and now the last one here is going to be, so this get list. So it's going to be get async. So this is get async. Okay. Now with this get async, you're not going to pass in any parameter, and it is returning a list. So it is returning a list of this user. And also when you talk about delete, it is returning an integer. Update also returns. So it also returns an integer. And now add also returns an integer. Okay, so let's have this method. Now let's go to the service, and let's right click and then go for implement interfaces. So we have all the interfaces here, and that is what you're going to define. So let's create our database connection on top here. So we can create a method that we can use to call, and let's say we have our it as, let's have a private void because it's not going to return anything, and we're going to say setup. So setup database. And now with this method, we can pass in of. So let's say, but before that, let's set a private variable on top here as private. And let's talk about SQLite connection. So that's an async connection, and we can create it as an object. So let's say, this connection. Okay, so we have this connection here. Now we check in this method, and now we can say that if connection, so if connection, and now this connection we are referring to this connection. So we can just make a copy of this and I replace this. So if this connection here is equal to null, okay, or we can say is null, then we want to establish a new connection. So we can say string db path, that database path is equal to, so path dot combine. So what are we going to combine? Environment dot get folder path, and in the folder path we are going to also pass in environment dot special folder, and that is where dot local application data. And what is the name that you want to grab? Let's say this is user or let's say users. So we can say netcode users.db3. So that is the name of the database that you want to create. Okay. Now let's see, we set here to string. So we see this is string. And now the next thing that we can do here is, let's say connection is equal to new SQLite async connection. Then we're passing db path. Now let's call an array to establish it. Then we say connection dot create. So what I'm going to create, so create table async. And now which table are you talking about? We have this user table. So we have this user table, and that is it. So this method, this setup database, let's call this setup database. As soon as the constructor loads or the page loads, let's call it over here. Now we have to perform this kind of operation. That is the add, delete, get, and update as well. Okay, so to add data, what we can do here is, let's first work with the get data. So we can say this is var, and we can talk about, maybe let's see if we can have a straight shot. So return, and we can have an await connection dot table, and here it is user table dot to list async. So that is all. So you want to return this. So this method, you can just put it in the block code, so one line. So let's use this to get that. Now aside from that, we also talk about add student. So let's add user list. So here, in order to add user list, we have to go for, this is returning a list. By the user list, as soon as you add user, it returns an integer, that is 1. Okay, so 1 or negative for success, and if it is 1, it means it is success, because as soon as it adds, it's going to add or returns an integer. It could be the ID from the database. Okay, so with this add, you can just clear this off, and now in here we are going to say something like return. So let's return connection, and now connection dot, and we go for insert, not insert, or that is a range. So you want to dot insert async, and now async, what are you going to insert? You're going to insert this user. So this too, we can use a simple block code to handle that as well. Now let's go for delete, and it is the same as that. So delete is over here. So we can say that. So instead of this, we can clear this, and now we say connection. So let's set it to well. So connection, then dot delete user. And now let's go for the update. So let's clear this too. And that is connection. And here we are also going to talk about the update. So to update, you're going to use update async. Then you're going to pass in the same user. And that's all. So you can see that we have interface and our implementation class created. Now the next thing that we can do here is we are going to now inject this interface or this service that we have created, and we can now able to use it anywhere that we want to use. So to do that, we have to first create our content page, and on this content page, we're going to create a content page for adding a user to this database. Now before that, we haven't registered this, so let's do that, and we can just grab one of these. So let's grab this one, and we can paste it. And now in here, we can say that this is user service. And now the class here, it is user service. So that is a class. We save that and we are good to go. So now this view, you have a user list. Let's go for add user list. So let's click on add new item. And our .NET Maui, we choose content page, XAML. And now here, we're going to say, so manage user. So this manage user are going to comprise of add and update. So manage user page. And now this manage user page, we are going to create a view model. So you can just copy this and now right click on the view models folder, click on add class, and now let's paste this and add view model. So we have this view model. So there is and now here it is a public and a partial class. You know, this also has to inherit from observable objects. Okay. So aside from doing this, what else can we do again? Let's register this view model also in Maui Program.cs. So you can just copy this too. And now we can paste it. Now let's cut this. And now paste it the view model. Paste it here. And now let's take off the view model. So we have the two pages also registered here. Now let's bind this view model to this main manage user page. So let's grab this. Now let's go to manage user page here, .cs, and now let's inject this. So we create an object, and now control period, let's inject the namespace. And now here we say that binding context is equal to then manage this user. Okay, so now we are done with the registration and also injection of this view model to each view. What can we do? We go to the view content, manage user content here, and now we say add user. Okay, so here that's what we can do. We can bind this to something else. Now let's try that and see. So when you go to this manage user page, you can see we have this, and now let's set up string. So this is private string, and here it is title. And let's set up observable property on top. Okay, so when the page loads, here we have this property here. Okay, so let's initialize it. So control period. So when generating constructor here, we can talk about title. We can say title is equal to initially to add new user. That is the title for the content. And now let's go to this manage page and let's include the view model. So XMLS. Then we can talk about view model. Then it's equal to CLR. Then dash namespace. Then we have demo.viewModels. And now let's specify the data type. So we say X data type. Then we specify this view model. And we know we're going for manage view model. Okay. So in here, we are now going to build a form to add data. So let's write our form here. Now, the vertical layout. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to use Syncfusion component to do that. Now let's go to the component, and when you get started, we have installed the package. That's a package already. So we need to use configure Syncfusion core. Let's copy this Now let's go to our project and Maui Program.cs. Let's include this here. So after registering this, the next thing that we can do is we have to add a namespace, and that is this one. So we can just grab that. We go to our manage user page, and now here we are going to add it to the namespace. So we add it to the namespace like this. And what we can do, so let's bind. So we say binding, and now we can talk about title. Now let's go for the input. So to go for this input, this is what we need to do. It's very simple. You have to grab this, and we have the input. So in here, I'm going to paste this here. That's vertical layout. Now save this, and you're going to run this project to see. So let's run this and see what we have now. Whilst it is running, we are going to copy this also and now paste it more than one. So let's copy this, and because we are going for based on the user, we have name, location, and email. So we have to do same to this name, location, and email. So we have this the name, we have location, and we have our email. Now in between, maybe you can have a box view to give it a line, a nice line between each. And also, so let's copy this, and now let's paste it here. So let's paste this, and now this too, let's paste this. And now let's have a button. So this is the button. And now the text here is going to be, let's say, save. Okay, so we have save. So save user or save data. And that is the name of the button that you want to use here. Now, if you check, let's see if you check you see we have hints. Now let's specify the hint, and that is a label. So the first one is we want to specify here this hint. We want to go for the first one is a name. So we say hint, and we go for full name. Now the next one we go for email address, and the last one, so location. So let's see. Now we go to this manage, and here we have to specify hint as location. So maybe we can specify this. Let's see if we can specify keyboard style. Can do that here. So let's maintain this. Okay. Now let's see. Okay, it's still running. Now the next thing that we're going to do is, whilst you have this, we can set this to center, but it's going to be there already. So this is what you're going to do. Let's go to the home, that's the user list page, and now let's add toolbar. So we're going to say content. So content page dot toolbar items, and now we're gonna have toolbar item. So the text of this, we're gonna have plus. So we have font size. Okay, so plus. Okay, there's no, let's say we don't have any font attributes here. Okay, so let's talk about text color. So we have the text and auto. Alright, so let's have command. But before you have command, let's bind this view model. So XML NS, and now we use view model, then equal to CLR dash namespace. So namespace. Then we can talk about demo. So we want to grab view models, and aside from that, X data type. Then we say view model dot user list view model. So in here, let's go in there and create a button to link it. As soon as we click on that, it opens the page for us. So manage, we go to this user list view model, and now in here, let's create a button. And now this is async void, and so add user. So here we say that app shell, so app shell dot current, so app shell then dot current dot go to async, and now here we can specify that is the name of and the name of manage. So you can talk about manage user page, and that is this one. So this method, let's set up, let's use an await, and now let's set up a relay command. So in here, relay command, you put it on top. Now we go back to the user list page, and now where we have this method, we can now add a command to this. So command, and we say binding. So we can talk about go to, that is add. Since we are running here, so I expected this. Let's check it out. So let's see, it is saying that the method here is async void. Okay, so supposed to be task. All right, to make it stop. Now, once we have this, let's see if it has run. Okay, now we have this method, manage user page. So we have user list page. So when I click this, let's say we have to go for the user list page view model, and now add user. Let's copy this. Let's go to the page, paste this, and now add command to it. Save that, and now let's refresh the page, and now let's see what you're gonna have here. So the page is loaded. Now let's click on this plus sign, and it has to navigate us to the add page. As you can see, it is not doing that because you haven't registered that in the routing system. So let's do that. Let's go to Solution Explorer. Now we can, and let's check for app shell. So .xml.cs file. Let's register the routes here. So we say routing .register route, and now we have to pass in name of. So name of, and now this name of is going to be manage. So manage user page, and now type of. So you pass in type of to same. Let's save this. So let's clear this too. Save this, and now refresh the page and see. So let's click on this plus sign, and now let's see. Okay, so as soon as I click on that, you see it tells me there's a Syncfusion license key here. So I haven't licensed it. So you see we have the box here that we can fill. First name, we can pass in our last email address, and also location. Let's specify the width size here. So let's see. Now let's go to the manage user page, and here on top, because we have all in the vertical, so we can talk about margin. Now we can say margin, you want the top to be maybe 10 each. So let's save that, and now let's see. So you can see you have 10 10 each here. You can decide to maintain like this, or we can say 0 0 0 0. So we can say 0 left, and the top here must be 10, and the right is 0, and our bottom is 0. So if you save that too, let's see what we have. So this is what we have here. Okay. So aside from having this, the next thing that we can maybe talk about is, let's start the button. So this is the button, and you can also talk about margin. So margin, you want to talk about 10 each, and that is what you see here. So there is 10 each. You can click on it to save the data. Okay, so that is this one. That's to add user, and now when it comes here, there's a user list. So let's go to the manage user page view model, and I'll try to add user. So here we're going to create observable. So we say observable property, and now we can talk about user as new user. So this user, we can use this user in the page here. So control period, you can include this. Now let's go to the page, main page. So here we're going to use the user to bind it. So you can see we have this entry, and now this, you're going to say test, it is binding. You can talk about new user. So let's terminate this, and you're going to have the IntelliSense here. So you're going to have new user dot, and here it is name. And also we can do the same here. So that is an email address. So you can specify the test, and you can say that binding new user dot email. And then the last one is going to be location. So test, and I can talk about binding and new user dot location. Okay, so when this button is clicked, what should happen? That's the manage package here. Let's create a method, and that is async task, and here it is save user. Save user. So here we're going to check first if user value is not equal to 1, because you want to do update and delete as well. Okay, so that is what you want to do here. So maybe we can talk about this save here. It is coming in with this user model. Okay, so we can just make a check from here that if user, or if new user dot id is greater than 0, it means you're going to update. So update the data here. But if it is 1, then if it is not more than 0, it means you're going to add a new user. So to add that, let's inject our service here, and our service is our user service. So control period, we create an assigned field. So create an assigned field, and now we can now call this. So you say var results is equal to await. I can talk about user service dot. Now here we're going to talk about add async, and this add async, we are going to pass in this new user here. So here too we can check if new user is not equal to null. So if new user is equal to null, so all this we can check it from this place. Okay, so we can say that if new user is null, then maybe you want to return. Else you want to do this and do that. So we have this. So if user is not null, then it means you want to add, if the ID is 0, maybe you want to add new user. So after adding, this is going to return a result of a number. So if the number is greater than 0, so let's say, so if results is greater than 0, then you want to display a message. Okay. And to display a message, we are going to use toast to handle that. So let's go to the documentation for toast. And this is what you have to do. You have to use this community toolkit.maui.alert. So first of all, let's create our cancellation token. So let's copy all this, and maybe this is what we can do. Let's go to our project, and then maybe you can call a method to create toast. So let's say private, and and that's a void. So create toast, and now this toast, let's paste this here. So we need to pass in string, need to pass in test here, need to pass in the test, and that's all. So in here we create a test. So we're not going to create test here. Let's clear that. We create our cancellation token. Then the duration is short. We have our double font size of 14. Then we are saying toast.makeToast. So we have our text pass in here, and our font size and duration. And now we say await. So to do that, let's make it as async, and we have our toast. So let's copy this, and now let's go to this. So if the value here is greater than 0, it means success. Then we can talk about toast dot. We can call this toast, and now pass in something like, so data saved. Okay. So our data saved, yeah, or created, or new data, new user data created. So we can do anything, new user data and created. And you can talk about maybe successfully, or yeah, so new user data created successfully. Okay, that is when the results here, it is greater than 0. But in case it is not, then what are you going to do? So meaning error occurred, and now this else we can talk about also making the same toast. So you call the same toast, and now we pass in error occurred. So error occurred whilst processing your request. That's all. Okay, so that is what we are doing here. But in case the ID coming in, it is greater than 0, then you want to update. So to update, you're going to create results. You're going to say results. Okay, so this is what you're going to do. Instead of creating results and results here, we can just create one result. So let's say var result is equal to -1. Now, first of all, we check. So let's check if the model is fed before you initialize any, in order not to waste memory. So we put it here. Then result is equal to 1. So here, if user here it is greater than that is 0, then let's use this. So if user is greater than 0, then we are going to say result is equal to await user service dot update async. So user service dot update async, and now this async we pass in this new user. Okay, so that is what we have to do here. Let's optimize the code. So else, then we call this, we say result is equal to user add async. Then when we are done, we count down here and I'll make a check. So here we are saying that if results here is greater than 0, then we want to display information or data saved. So if the result here is greater than 0, then let's say not new data. So we want to say data saved successfully. So data saved successfully, or there's error occurred while processing your request. Okay, so that is what we are doing here. Very simple. Okay, so this method here, it is both going to save and also going to add as well. So now let's bind this to the add this button, and now here we're going to say command is equal to binding, and now we have add. Let's see, when you go to manage view, there's a save user. So let's see if we're going to have save command. We are not having save command. Let's see, we have this button joined, that is a model over here. And okay, you have to pass in a relay command. So relay command, let's save that, and now let's go back to the page. And now let's see, so save user command, we have it. Now let's run this application and see. Alright, so the page is loaded. Now let's click on this plus sign to add new data. Now it's going to navigate us to the page. That's the add user. So add new user. And now in here, let's pass in test. So we're going to pass in John Doe. And now the email is johndoe@mail.com. Now location is Ghana. So let's click on save and see the response here. Okay, so this save button is not joined to any. Now let's see, we have save data, right? And that is a save as command. So when you click on it, nothing happens. Right, so let's see, let's add a breakpoint and see. So we have this is a save. Now let's add a breakpoint here. So let's click on it and see. It's going to hit the breakpoint. Okay, so the breakpoint is hit. Now continue. So it's user now return. So let's see, maybe user is going to be now. So let's do it again. So hit on this and now continue. So what's the value for user? Let's add this. Let's see. Okay, so many user here, it is now. Now we did not initiate the user. So we have this user over here, and now we can do that here. So we can say new user. New user is equal to new then user. So let's refresh this page and now see what we can do here again. Alright, so let's click on the button. So let's add a user. Okay, so first of all, if I click on save data, this breakpoint must be hit. And now click on continue. User is now, so it's going to return over here. Now let's specify John Doe, then John Doe@mail.com. So location is in Ghana. Now let's click on save, and now it is hit continue on. Now let's see. Now it's user. Let's see the values for user. You see we have the data over here. If so, then continue on. And now we are expecting to see a success message, but nothing happened here. So let's see. So you have here, if the ID is greater than 0, then do this update, else then do this. And now when I come here, results is greater than 0, then do this, else do that. And we did not see any response here. All right, so let's have it line by line, and let's trace where the issue is. Okay, so continue on. Okay, so we still move on. Now user here, the result is -1. So let's see, new user ID is -1. Okay, so result is -1 because the user ID coming in is empty, right? So we did not pass any value, so default it is -1. Now let's go to the next one, and now here the result is 1 because it has now, it is updated. So let's see, and now we have the result is 1, so we want to display this. So toast, when you go to the toast here, we must have make_toast, and now let's see what it's going to tell us. So continue on, and now let's see if the toast is the toast has been displayed down there. So let's see. So let's click on this back button. Okay, so let's stop this. Let's stop this debugging, this breakpoint. Okay, and let's do it again and see. So wait. Now if I click on save data, so continue on. Alright, so if I click on save data, it tells me the data saved successfully. So do it again, the data saved successfully. Okay, so we did not check. Maybe you can make a check to see if the data here it is there already. And that is where we have to create a method from here. So maybe you can do that in this service. And now this user service, you can create task. And we can talk about this user and say get user. And this get user, you're going to pass in user ID. So you're going to pass in int ID. Okay. Or maybe you can pass in any name at all as user and also user object. So when you go to the interface, the implementation, let's implement that here. And maybe we can say that we can make a check from this. So how do we do that? We can just create, so var user, so it's equal to, then we can just grab this. So connection, we have to get an await, and we say connection dot table, and now you can pass in which table, that is the user table, and here dot first or default, and we can pass in whereby u max to u dot, here we can use username to check. So you can use a name, or you can even use the ID. But when coming with a new one, you cannot use ID. So let's use where. So dot where, and we can now pass in u max to u dot email. So email dot toString, or to lower dot equals to the user dot email. So user dot email, let's say, dot equals to user, this user object here dot, can we have email? Let's see where the problem lies. So u.email.lower dot equals to this user. So okay, so we don't know which user, this or that. Now let's say this is result. So I'm referring to this user. So dot email dot to lower. Then here we can use dot first or default. Not that one. I think it's going to be at the back. So that's first or default async. Okay, so and let's return this straight. So we need not to even. Let's return this straight away. Okay, so get user, passing this user model, and I'm going to check with the email. Okay, or you can decide to pass in only email here. So we can say string. We can pass in email, only email, not to waste the whole object. So let's copy this. Let's use this email, and now we can just clear this up. Okay, so now we have this, and this returning. This will return a bool, either true or false. So let's make this as bool, or it should return the whole object. So let's return the whole object. Okay, so we're gonna check this and return the object to this user. Now let's go to, we have this user here. So tax user, and that is all. Let's go to the user service, and now get user. So this is going to be string, and it is just email. So it's only the email that we need to check. Okay, so now let's come to this manage here, and as soon as I click on here, so if the ID is greater than 0, then I want us to check first. So let's create this. Then let's cut this into this new folder. And now this, let's put it in this brackets. Okay, so first of all, we are going to say var check user is equal to await user service dot get user, and here this get user, it needs an email, and then we can say new user dot email. So it's going to return an object, a list of users. So we can say if check is not equal to now, so let's say if this is equal to now, if user is null, then you can just go ahead. If it is null, we can just return this. You can call this method. Okay. So let's see if it is not, rather, meaning it is there already, then we can call this method, and I'll pass in something like user already exists, something like that. Okay, so you can call this method and then create toast. So then there's no need for us to use this. So we are making a check here to see. If not, then we're going to say results is equal to this. Update async. That is when it checks and couldn't find the answer, then you call this. So here, after doing this, we have to also return. So maybe after doing that, we can return from here. Yes, then return. Okay, so let's try this and see. So while it is building, we have to work on also the user list model. So we have to also get a user list. Let's see, from this, manage user page. So let's see, there's a result here. That is when this return. So that code is unreachable unless you put it in something like this before it becomes reachable. Okay. So now problem solved. Now let's go in there and see. So add new user. And now you're going to pass in the same user as John Doe that we passed first time. And now let's see the exception that we're going to have. So an attempt was made to tax finance statement already completed. Now let's refresh that. So here we have to make a check here. Here shouldn't return because we're going to create a toast here. And now, all right, so that is it. Let's see. So click on this add. Now you're going to add a new user. So let's see, John Doe, and our email is johndoe@mail.com, and I have Ghana as location. Click on save. Now you can see data saved successfully. Let's click on it again. User already exists. Again, you can see user already exists. Again, user already exists. As soon as you pass a new one, so let's say this is Doe1, a new email. As soon as it comes in, you can see user created successfully. Click on it again, you can see user already exists. All right, so this is now working. Now let's go to the main page, and also that's the user list, and try to get a whole list of users from the database. So let's see, from this user list page, we go to the user list page view model. And now in here, we have to create an observable collection. So here, let's use public. And we're going to use observable. Let's use range collection instead. So observable range collection. And now let's see. So this range collection, we are going to pass in of user, and now we say users, so equal to new. Now this, let's include this user model. Okay, now it is added. Now let's create a method. So when the page loads, let's create this control period, and now let's create a constructor for this. So generate constructor for this. You're not having constructor here, so click on this one, control period. Now let's try to generate constructor over here. Okay, so it is saying it's ambiguous because helpers have this model helpers over here. It has the observable object, and community 2K MVVM also has it. So let's be specific. So let's cut this. And now here, let's put this here. So we are specifying as observable collection. So control period. Now let's generate our constructor here. And now this method, we can say that load users from database. So let's create this method, generate this method over here for us. Now this is what you are going to do. You're going to say, so var users is equal to await. Then let's inject the interface. So our user service Then we create an object, control period. Let's create an assigned field. So we can say that user service. So dot get async. So get async. And now here we can check that if user.count, if user.count is greater than 0, then let's also check. Let's first check this. So we say if this users.count is also greater than 0, then we want to do that. We want to clear, so users.clear. Then we check this. If this count is also greater than 0, then users.add range. And now that's why we need to use the helpers. We can add range just like that. And now we're going to pass in these users. So we need not to loop through like using normal MVVM you have to just loop through them using for each and now adding one after the other. We add the range and that is all. Okay, so let's add these users and that is all. Okay, so we have this method called from here and that is it. So when you go to this user list page, let's include that here. Now we have this list for field as soon as the page loads. So let's create our collection view. So in our collection view, let's have our grid. And now this grid, I'm going to have row. So row definition, and it's going to be star. And I'm going to say that's collection view. And now this collection view, let's set the item source. So we say item source. And now this item source, we bind this to. We bind this to, that is users. So we are not having users here. Let's see. We have our model user list model already connected. And now, so let's stop this. And now we're going to have access to these users. So let's see users. So it is not user, rather it's supposed to be users. So let's go to user list page here. And that is here, it is users. So users, this is what we are trying to add. Let's grab this. So if users, this is clear. And this also user that we're talking about. Okay, so now when you go back again, let's see, we have it right there. So user list page, and I can see from here you're gonna have users. Okay, now you can specify collection.item template. So collection.item template. So with this item template, we have to specify data template too. Now data template here, we have to include the models. So we say that XMLNS namespace, and we say models is equal to CLR-namespace. And then we're going to have demo, and let's search for models. We have our models here. So in here, the data template, let's specify X, and now we go for models. And on these models, you can have this user model. So X models. So let's say X data type, and now you can use models. And these models, we can have access to this user. Okay, so we have this. Then in here, we can grab frame. So this frame, we're going to have horizontal. It could be horizontal, it could be vertical. So let's say horizontal, vertical. So let's use maybe vertical. So you have frame. Now this frame, let's yeah, let's add only just a label. We want to display only one. And now we're going to say test is equal to, so let's bind this to the name. And now we're going to say name. We can set font size to 18. And with this, we can have maybe margin as 1010. And yeah, 1010 is okay. And you can have padding as maybe 5.5. So let's save this and let's run this and see. So once you run this, we have to specify the gesture mode. So if I click on this, what should happen? So that's what you have to do. We have an error. Let's check it out. So it is saying this position of this. So it's saying that this user is not found. Now let's try again and see. So we have this item source as binding, and we have these users. So let's check our main. Here we are binding user list page view model, and we have public. Okay, so here must be get and set. So equal to. So get and set accessors must come. So get set. And now let's take off this. Let's save that, and I think problem is solved now. So let's run again and see. So once it is running, let's go in there and now check for gesture. So here we can, inside the frame, we can have frame.gesture recognizes. So frame.gesture recognizes, and now in here we can specify tab gesture recognizer. So this tab, we have to give it a command, and also we have to specify command parameter. So command parameter, then we bind this. So binding this to dot meaning itself. Let's check the form yet. Okay, so it is now loading, and let's see. Okay, so we have an exception, object reference not set to an instance. Let's check here and see. So meaning the list is not set to an instance. Now let's check user list page view model. So this user list, that's what it's talking about. We have an observable range collection, and we have it set over here as users. So we have get set is equal to new object, and here when we call this method, it means we want to load this. So we call the service here injected from this, and aside from that, the service. Okay, so as you can see, the service must be called here. So let's pick this, and now bring it at the end of here, because the service has to be registered before it can be used to call this. Now let's try this and see, maybe this will solve the problem. So let's restart this. So let's see. Now let's click on this, and let's add John Doe. Now that is John Doe at mail.com. So we add a new data here. Now it is saved. So we try the next one. It is not saving. So let's add one. So maybe Johnson, and it is saved. Let's add this. It is saved. Can add more data here. This is saved. This is also saved. Department also saved now. Now let's go back to the main page. And now we want this, as soon as it comes here, we want to call the method and I get the data. But you see, when you navigate back here, This method is not calling because it is not initialized. The content page is not called. So here, we can't call this method here. That is to get us the whole list from this view model. So this method has to be called somewhere else. And we can call this method when the page appears. So we go back to this list here, and now let's have an override method, and that is on appearing. So on appearing, we want to return, call this method, and now here we have to create this method that is a user list page view model. Then we can now create this, and now in here we can use this. So let's use this here. So let's say control period, and now let's see. So this is what we can do. Let's cut this. Now control period. Let's create an assigned field. Okay, so now we can just grab this, and now here we can pass it dot. Then we have this method over there. Load. Do you have that method? And now this method here, let's see. When we go to this user list page view model, we have a method of load, right? So definitely we must have that method. Let's stop this, and now let's check it again from here, and let's see. So user list dot, then let's see. So we have load. So our method from this. So if so, then we can pass this. We go to the model here. Now you can pass this as an relay async. So relay command. Then let's go back to the page, and now you must have access to the load command there. So then we can say dot execute, and now we pass in the object of null here to make it execute. All right, so let's now run this application, and now let's see. So let's try this and see. I click on this, then let's still pass in the same John Doe. So I have as Ghana. Now let's add save data. It is now saved. Save data, save now, and these are exist. So let's add E to this. Now save. So when we go back to the page, we want to call that method to get us the list, right? But you see that we are not having the list. So let's have a breakpoint here. So user page. Now let's see if this method will be called. So let's click here, and now let's go back. Okay, so this is called, and let's see. So if this is called, then let's trace this method and see if this method will also be called. So let's see from this. Now this is getting a list of users, and let's see. So let's have a breakpoint here. Let's go back. So click on this. So continue on, and now it is hit on this. Continue on. Now what is the value for this user? We have count of 4, and now here we have count over here. So let's see the count greater than 0. So wait. Let's see the count greater than 0. If yes, then these users, we clear that. And now let's see the value for this user. Let's check it again. So as you can see from here, we have to first check restore users here is equal to get the service, get the list here. Now aside from that, we check if this count is greater than 0, then we clear that. And now here we are checking the same thing. No, so we have to check this user. So that is that's a problem. So now let's close this. So let's save that. And now let's refresh the page. Okay, so the breakpoint is now hit. And now let's continue on. And let's see if it will get us the list. So you see we have the whole list over here. Now that is it. You have the list. Now let's go in there and add one more and then see if it's going to be added to the list here. So let's add Netcode-Hub. Now you can see we have net@mail.com and it is in Ghana. So click on add and now it is added. So let's go back and then see, so you can see we have it over here beautifully. Okay. Now the next thing that we can do is let's go to this user list page and now let's set a pattern. So with this frame, we have pattern as 5. Maybe we can make this as 10 to, let's see, save this and okay, so 10 is okay. And the spacing is too much and that is a margin. So we want to set margin left top. That is for left top. So we have 10 for left, 10 for top, and now 10 for right, and now 0 for bottom. So we save that and it will just put them together like that. Okay. Oh, this can even be 5. 5 will be okay. All right, so let's maintain this. Now the next thing that we're going to do here is we are going to click here to go for update and delete. So in that we have to activate tab, that's a gesture. Now let's go to the user list view and I have a command first. So this is what we are going to do. We are going to display an action sheet for them to just make a selection. So this is what we are going to do. Let's have, and here going to be async, or let's make it as public. So public async, and this is task. And now this task, we're going to say display action sheets. So display this action sheet. And now this action sheet, we are going to pass in with user, and that is a user model. So in here, we are going to check, we're going to say response. So it's equal to await, then let's say shell.current.display action sheet. Now this action sheet, we need to pass in some parameter. The first one is a title, and now here let's say select option. So select option. Second one here, it is the cancel button. We want to say okay, and the next one is to active button here, and I want to say put this to now. Now the next thing is, do you want to edit or do you want to delete? So do you want to edit or do you want to delete? So we pass in that and we start the response to this. So here we can check if response is equal to, we can have this edit. Then I want to do this. You want to do one thing. Then else if it is equal to this too. So you can say else if response is equal to something like delete. Then you want to also do another one here. So this is what you're going to do. If you click on edit, you want to create, that is a parameter, and you want to create this navigation parameter. So we say it's equal to new, let's create a dictionary, and this is string of objects, and object is a value. So now we say navigation parameter dot add. So we are going to add the first one. It is a user details, and the second one here, that is the item, and that is the user. So that is the user, and here we are going to check if user is null, then you want to return to skip all errors. So return, very simple, 1. Okay, so it is not returns, it is only return. Now we check here. So aside from having this navigation parameter, then we are going to navigate. So we're going to say await shell.current.go to async, and now we're going to pass in the name of the page that you want to navigate to, and here it is user details page. Okay, and you're going to pass in the nav parameter. So we have name of user detailed page, and I can pass in the navigation parameters. So we have to create this. Before you create that, let's go to the else. But in case it is delete, then what can we do? Let's say var response. Then we can say it's equal to await. Then we can have user service. So user service dot delete async, and at this delete async, we are going to pass in the whole user. So here we can check. So if response, we can use response here. So let's use result. So if result is greater than 0, then we can do something like call. We have to also call a toast. So let's go to the list or the main page view model, and now let's copy this toast here. Let's go back to the user list page, and now let's paste the toast here. Okay, and now let's call this method. So if user is greater than 0, call this method, and now we have to pass in. So the user data deleted successfully. That is when the response is what? When the response here, it is greater than 1. But in case, then what can we do? We can call this error occurred. So while deleting, so error occurred whilst deleting or performing the operation. So performing the operation. Okay, so we can just write something like that. Then we call this method, create this toast, and this method is going to be called. Okay, now the next thing is you have to create this page. So let's go to right click on the views, and now let's click on add new item, and now here you're going to select Maui content page, and now in here we are going to paste this user page detail page. So we are going to navigate to this page, and now that's the page that we are. So now in this page you have to create a view model. Right click on this, and now go to view model, add class, and now this class is going to be user page view model. Okay, so user page view model, and now this view model, it is public partial class. So this is public, and now here it is partial class, and this is going to inherit from observable objects. So with this observable object, we have to accept the query parameter or query property. So we say this query property, and now this query property demands the first one here. If I open this, the first one, it is the name. So, and the next one is the key. So the name, we can put comma here, and now the key is, what is the key? Let's go back to this user page view model, and now the key that we are sending is user details. And now let's copy and go back to this user detailed page, and now you can pass in the key. Now with this model, this is what you're going to do. We are going to create observable property. So observable property against private user. Then we say user model. So we say new user model. And now here, let's set underscore and new user model. So control period, let's inject this. Now we can use this model over here. So you can just go to this, and now we can use user model, and that is a new user model. Let's see whether you're gonna have that. So we can use name of, and here let's specify it as, so name of, and it is new user model, this one. Okay, so now we have this, it's going to be held in this model. So the next thing that we can do here is, so here it is just a view, so we can just create a view to display this. Now let's go back to the user detailed view, and now here we have to include this. So you say XM and S here, and now we pass in view model. So view model, and now we say this view model is equal to CLR-namespace. Then we say demo, and we are looking up for view models. So we specify the data type as X data type, and now we say view models dot user view model. So let's see view model, then we have user view model. So you have this view model and user view model. So we are not having the view model yet. Let's see. So you have user details. So user details view model. You have user list and manage user. So let's check where we created that. Okay, you have user detailed page view model, and it is now reflecting over here. So let's see, we have to terminate this, and now it's going to come. So we're going to have, and that is it. Let's specify the data type, that is it. So let's register this in the page Maui Program.cs file. So we can just paste this here. Let's paste this and then grab this two from here, and we can now paste this like so. Let's cut this, and now we can paste this here, and now let's cut this also as well, and we can now paste something like this here. Okay, so we're now registered, and now let's bind this page, this view model, to the page. So let's go to the user detail page over here, and let's go back to the code behind file, and that is this. So let's paste this, and I will create an object. Then let's bind the object here. So binding context, so we set is equal to this user detail page. So control period, let's include the models here. Okay, now this is set. Let's go back to the user detail page, And now let's have this. So in the vertical form, we can have something like a label. You can have something like a label, and now the text here. Let's bind this. We can bind this to name, and it is new user model dot name. Let's make a copy of this, and now let's paste this. So we have name, we have email, and the last one is location. And let's set this spacing up to 10. And also we can set this margin also up to 10, and padding also 10. Okay, then aside from this, let's have the closing for this vertical stack layout, and we can have a button also which tells us to return. So you can have a button, and this tells here it is go to home. So go to home. Okay, or aside from that, you can even put it on top here. So instead of this button bringing it here, we can put this button at the toolbar here. So we say content page dot. So not this content page. You want to use this content page dot toolbar. So dot toolbar items, and now we can have toolbar item, and this toolbar item we're going to have a text as home. And now the command here, so let's go and create a command in the user detail page here. So we create a command, and that's going to be public async task, and now it is home. So this home, let's open it, and let's say await, then shell dot current dot go to. So go to, and now here we are going to home page, so we can specify this as home page. Okay, so that is it for this. Now let's pass in a relay command on top. So we say relay command, we pass it on top like this, and now let's go back to the detailed page, and let's add this. So we say binding, and that is home command, and that's all. We are done with this. Okay. Now the next thing that we have to do here is we have to enable the update and delete as well. So as for that, we go back to the manage user page. So here we're also going to accept the same parameter from this user detail page. So we can just grab this, and on top here, let's paste this, and let's create. We have a property here already, so we're going to use our new user, and we're going to add this model. So that's a new user, and now we have this object coming in over here as well. Okay, so when you have it, then we're going to just display in the view. So let's say now we check that when we receive this and the ID here, it is greater than. So this is going to be, let's say, manage user. So let's run this and see. Let's run this and see what happens. So while it is loading, we go back to the user list page view model. So let's check that here. And now this user list page view model, we have to also add another button. So we have view. Maybe we can have view then we can have edit, and also you can have delete. So the first one is edit. So let's see, the first one must be if response is equal to view, then this is what you want to do. Else if response is equal to edit. So if it's equal to view, then this is what we are doing. We are also going to call the same thing here. So we can move this navigation parameter to, you can cut this from here and you can put it on top here. Okay, so that we can, all of us can have access to it. Now if, so let's, okay, and let's leave space here. So if this response is equal to view, then we want to navigate this, and we are going to, instead of user details, you're going to user details and we pass in these navigation parameters. But if it is edit, then we are going to manage user details. So manage user page, and I will pass in the same parameters as well. But in case it is delete, then we call this. So let's save that. Now, once we are done, we have to add the gesture. So, and also specify the command in there. So let's go and add that. And we have to add that in the page. That is a user list page. So you see we have the page and we have user list page here. And we have to specify the gesture here. So from this frame, we can specify frame gesture. So frame dot gesture recognition. Then you can have tab gesture, and that is this. So this tab gesture, we have command parameter, and now we are binding to itself. Also we can have command, and now this command, we're going to have source, so binding source. Then this source, we are going to make a reference to X relative reference. Now this relative reference we set up to the ancestor type. So ancestor type. And now with this ancestor type, we are going to specify it. We are going to specify the X type of. Now the type is the view model that we specified. And now this view model has a model known as user list page view model. And now in that, there is a path that you want to get. And the path here is, let's see the path. So we go to the user list view model. And now that is the display action sheet. So let's copy this and let's go back to the user list detailed page. So we paste this and I will add command to it. Okay. And then we close it. Yeah, so that is this. That is what we are doing. Now let's see. So we have the page is still running. And let's wait for it to run. Then we are going to test that to see. Okay, so the app is now ready. Now let's see. So I'm going to click on this. As soon as I click on the first name, let's see what happens. You must have an action sheet that has to pop up and tell us what we want to do. So you can see the action sheet is not popping up. Okay. We try to add, let's see the error that we have here. It is saying no parameter less constructor, and you have to define that in the manage user page. So let's check that. Manage user page. So we have this, and now let's go to the manage user page. Okay, so we have the query parameters over here, and we are accepting user details, and in here we have our private service. Okay, we have our property with this, and the username we have also, and in here we are saying user equal to new user. So let's see. Now when I click on this, it seems nothing happens. The reason is when you check the action sheet, there's no relay command. So let's specify a relay command to it. Now let's save this. Let's refresh. So while it is loading, let's try to go through the code and see. Save command. And let's see with this. Okay, so here too we have to add 1M. I believe you saw it. So let's save that, meaning we have to refresh the page. Okay. Alright, so let's see. So now let's see. If I click on John Doe, I must have the pop-up over here. So if I click on Netcode, I must also have the pop-up. If I click on View, then it has to navigate us to the view, and it says unable to find a route for this because you haven't registered that. Let's do that. So when we check the Maui Program.cs, we haven't done user detail page. We have user detail page, and we have user list page here. Okay, now let's grab this, and now let's go to the app shell. So app shell.xaml.cs. We haven't done that, so let's copy this, and now we can paste it, and let's grab this, and now let's fix in. Let's save that, and let's refresh it and see. So now let's try it again. I click on Netcode-Hub, and I click on View. And you can see I have the data over here. I can now view it. If I click on Home, it has to navigate me to the home page. And let's see. Okay, so home I'm in. If I click on John Doe, and I must have. Alright, so let's see. They say no parameter constructor defined for this type. Now let's. Okay, so I am now checking up for these errors. Now let's see. So if I click on John Doe, you have this set. Now this. Okay. Now I want to go for delete, and now that is this one. So it jumps to this, and I want to be the response. Response is 1. So error occurred while performing the delete. So it means John is already deleted. Let's continue this again. So now choose delete, and now if I click on delete, we have John information. So the ID is 3. Continue on over here, and now user deleted. So you can see we have the message displayed here. But aside from that, we see we are not seeing the refresh here. So we have to call a method to get us the user. So let's call this method. So after deletion, we want to call this method, cut this, and put this here. So else, let's also cut this one and put this here, and this must have an await. So we have to go for program.cs file and check if we have registered all the components. Now we have to register the main page. That is a manage user. So let's paste this, and this is going to be manage user page, and now this is going to be its model. So manage user page view model. All right, so let's save this. Let's refresh. Okay, so we have John Doe here. If I click on this, let's see, do you want to view? If I click on view, it navigates me to the view side. If I go back and I click on it again, I'm going to have edit. So if I click on edit, you can see it has now opened up to me over here for me to edit. Now you can see we have all the data here. If I click on delete, let's see what happens. So if I click on delete, now you can see it is off. User deleted successfully. So let's see. Now if I click on edit, and now if I change the data, maybe Netcode-Hub, if I add something like channel, and I'll try to click on save data, it tells me user already exists. That is the error that we need to check it up here. So let's see if I click on this and I click on view. Let's click on home, and I can see we are back. So let's rectify that, and that would be all. So in there we go to where we have the edit page. So this manage page view model, you could say that is where it is saying view model, or it is user already exists. And here before it checks, I can see here we are checking if user is not equal to null. Then we want to check before we say something like this. You want to check if user data. So let's say if check user object coming in here is not equal to null, then let's check. So if check user dot, not the ID, so we're not going to use the ID, so dot name is equal to the one coming in here, and that is a new user dot name. Or okay, so let's use and check user dot email. Check user dot email is equal to new user. So new user. So we want to check new user dot email, and the last one is check user dot location, or is it the location is equal to new user dot location? If so, then tell the person that the user exists. So if the username is equal to the same and password is equal to same and everything is equal to same, then you want to tell the user that user exists because there's no change made. But in case it is not, there's even one changes, then you want to update that. So you can just cut this and now put it here. Okay, so if the username is equal to this, is equal to the same as what we have here, email the same and location to the same, then so here we can decide to convert this to lowercase, or yeah, so let's see, but it's okay. Now let's try it and see. So if I restart this, now let's see. So if I click on Netcode-Hub and I click on edit, so I'm here. If I click on save data, you can see user already exists. But if I decide to change something like, let's say if I decide to make it as Nigeria, let's see what happens. So if I click on save, you can see data successfully saved. But if I click on it again, you can see have user already exists. Alright, so that is it. Now this code, I'll put everything in the GitHub, so you can just go in there and I'll grab. If today is the first time of watching a video from this channel, then go to the playlist. We have a lot of lessons for Blazor and also .NET Maui app for you, development for you. So check it over there, and they're also there waiting for you. Okay, so if you haven't subscribed, just subscribe to the channel as well, so that as soon as I upload a new video, you get a notification to watch it. Also, give me thumbs up if you think I'm doing well. Give me thumbs up. Okay, so that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and see you guys in the next video.